As a host of this seminar, I shouldn't talk too much. And besides that, many of you have heard me too many times. And I have nothing new to say, only old slides in the computer. But I will do a few comments. But first of all, welcome all friends and welcome American speakers that will make this to a terrific day. Well, for 10 years ago, we introduced new urbanism to Sweden in a fantastic conference in the old town, 80 participants, amazing speeches by Ellen Dunham-Jones, who gave 2 lectures, and Jeff Speck, and also a guy from UK. I think he gave us a brilliant lecture, but I couldn't really tell because his accent was a little bit peculiar. But his books are fine. Anyhow, the reaction was fantastic. A lot of media coverage and a lot of enthusiasm. But after a while, we began to receive fierce criticism from networks around the School of Architecture. They were more into coal house thinking, and their perception of new urbanism was something backward, traditional architecture, and that wasn't okay then, and that is not okay now, by the way. But anyhow, we continued our efforts, and we did 3 more international conferences and 20 seminars during the following 3 years. And I think we reached about 2,500 people if we include my lectures, etc. So we must have been doing some kind of impact in this country, I think, with this effort. So 10 years later, new urbanism is still a controversial term, but the main ideas behind new urbanism is mainstream, really, in politics, in policy, in planning documents in the municipality level. They're all assuming that we must go back to the traditional city, the dense mixed-use city, etc. But we cannot use the term, however. So we say sustainable urbanism. When we go from words to what we actually built in Sweden, it's a long way to go. We have a few good projects, but we are still doing a lot of mistakes. This is, by the way, an extension of Hammarby Sjöstad, which was quite urban in the beginning, but later additions are quite suburban, however. So what are the problems? We have tons of problems, of course, in trying to reach a better building, but we have identified 2 obstacles that we should overcome, and that is the lack of business models that can exploit the attractive city, and the lack of a common understanding of the city. If we start with the business models, we know quite well what creates value in the city. Transportation, for example. By the way, about 80% of American railway is financed by the landowners because they understood what will happen with the land value if you have a train station on your land. But that type of thinking we don't really have today. Mix of uses, parks, walkability, small firms, markets, fine-grained city structure, and complexity. We know that this creates values, but our builders don't understand this because they build and sell. They are impatient. They put down buildings on already attractive places, existing places. They never calculate with the possibility of higher future land values as an effect of good town planning and placemaking. That is the problem. But I think this will change because we see so many funny things going on around the world. I will show you this. The Piazza at Schmitz in Philadelphia. Anyone heard about this? It's an amazing project because this quite aggressive investor, I don't know if Blushstein is a nice guy, but he understands how you create value with mixed use and placemaking. And he took those quite ugly buildings and created a piazza of the same size as Piazza Navona in Rome, with the same kind of enclosure. And he employed a manager who make things happen here. So it's a funny hotspot today in Philadelphia. And this guy is not doing this for fun. He's doing this for the future land values that this creates. And he also have mixed use in his business model. Tower is committed to creating mixed-use urban enterprises that enhance the cityscape, improve the city's tax base, and create employment and business opportunities. I think this type of thinking will spread also to Sweden. How many minutes do I have?
You're okay.
I'm okay. This is a master plan. This is a gift from our foundation, a master plan of the harbor area in Nynäshamn, which is a small city, 45 minutes east of Stockholm. It's a gift from us. Instead of spoiling the money on another conference, we did a new master plan to create some discussion. And by the way, our collaborators with this master plan are here today. It's Torbjörn, it's Kjell Forshed and Erika Wörman. And this is very well received on the political level. It's very well received by the people. But the builders who are working in this area, they don't know how to... They understand the value of this traditional city structure in the harbor, but they don't know really how to build this. This is an illustration of the new main street. So I don't think this will be built. Maybe we should ask Mr. Blattstein to come here and help us. Okay, that's one problem. The next problem is the silo problem. The famous geographer David Harvey wrote a very much quoted essay in 1970, Spatial Dimensions, where he lamented that we have so many disciplines that analyze the city with their own specialized concepts. So much of the knowledge we have about the city doesn't really reach out. And he started a long discussion with this. And he was asking for a new conceptual framework that could make all the knowledge we have useful. That was 40 years ago, and we are still waiting for this framework. But at least during the heydays of modernism, people were collaborating. This is a Pruitt Igwe. Sociologists, anthropologists, environmental psychologists actually collaborated with architects and town planners. But that collaboration disappeared in March 16, 1972, where this was turned down in live television. And that sent a shock wave through the whole system. So from now on, we saw a flight from the human habitat. Many silos became even more silos after this: architecture, town planning, sociology, etc. They started to collaborate, stopped exchange information. And one sad thing was that environmental psychology lost contact with the architects. This is Lawrence Herzog. He writes in his book, Return to Center. This shift was especially noticeable in universities where close ties between architecture and environmental studies, city planning, began to loosen in the 70s. And another bad thing happened, and that was Harvard's new direction. And this is one of our eyewitnesses. This is Moshe Safdie. He was the director for the urban design in Harvard between 78 and 84. And he writes in his book, The City After Automobile, he describes the process where Harvard abandoned the social engineering thinking. And very difficult to see here. It actually says that city planning, now defined as policy, was moved to the Kennedy School of Government. And architecture, landscape architecture and urban design remained in the design school, purified of the mundane and elevated to the status of art. Now architecture became art. And we couldn't do this kind of buildings anymore. They have to be transformed to something more funnier, and even funnier and trendier, as you see here. And now also the urban design in itself, the morphology, is a subject for artistic impression. This is Zaha Hadid's idea of a city structure. A new global style for architecture and urban design, says the article. So the old conflict between the user and the producer continues, but on a new level, I would say. And I will try to illustrate this with this very nice photo. It's taken by Phil Jones, husband of Ellen Dunham Jones. He is a very nice guy. I met him in several cities in Europe. He always disappears after the coffee because he doesn't like to talk about architecture. And he's a night photographer, so he's running out to all ugly places in the city and take these beautiful photos. And I would say he's some kind of classicist. He finds golden sections or something in ugly spaces. But he illustrates what architects, the profession of architecture is doing today. They are purely aesthetic people. I will juxtapose this picture with this Baroque painting of Vittel, which is a typical painting that children likes, and I think ordinary people likes, because we have so many behaviors here. You can walk, you can work, you can beg, you can look at the city, and you can go into the city, and you can rest here. So this is a very behavioral rich picture. I think when ordinary people judge places, I think they are thinking about the behavior, potential in the places, not the aesthetics. And this is the ongoing conflict. So this is a very nice main street in Reykjavik, Iceland. It's extremely behavior rich. It's full of ugly buildings, but that doesn't matter. It's a very nice place. But professionals like this kind of places. So we have a problem here. How to overcome this problem? We think that architecture and urban design needs to connect to behavioral science again. And vice versa, behavioral sciences needs to connect to urban form again. And we have two projects where we're trying to do this. One is collaboration with Mr. Tigra. It's a research project about urban form and human behavior. And we will try to study all research that has been done in different disciplines. And we will try to systemize this into knowledge that is useful in practical ways. We will also try to change on the global level the focus from objects to places. And with the help of UN Habitat and PPS, we will do 3 conferences, international conferences, that will head up to Habitat 3, a world meeting in UN with all member states. And they will sign a document about the future of cities 2060. And we want to have a few paragraphs in that document about the shift from objects to places. And if we succeed with this, we have done our work well. Thank you very much. Welcome.